You can support this podcast for $3 a month at patreon.com/copytradersclub, or find me on eToro, username Gavin Macaulay, and add me to a watch list for future content. Thanks for listening. Copytraders Club, where you can learn how to make better decisions and more money copy trading. I'm Gavin Macaulay, my name and username on eToro. Today we talk to a PI who rose to prominence in 2022, and we let our animal instincts run wild. Bulls, bears, cats and dogs. Here we go. Season 3, Episode 2 of the Copytraders Club podcast, and as always, my aim as an eToro enthusiast is to demystify this new and uncharted world of copy trading, understand what are the pitfalls and best practices, and how ultimately to succeed as a copy trader. In chats like today's, the aim is to answer all your questions about this popular investor and reveal more about them than anywhere else, so you can assess whether they might suit you. Today we talk to Jake Williams, Jakeisat, the master of cats. How is he feline about the markets? Fairly confident? Think positive? Let's get his perspective. Right meow. Jake, welcome to Copytraders Club.
Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you. And I don't know if you know this, but in order to get past reception, you have to answer a series of quick-fire questions for security purposes. Ready for those?
Yeah, let's do it.
Username on eToro.
Is Jakeisat.
Date you joined eToro.
Originally, I think back in 2015 at some stage.
Date you became a popular investor.
I think it was back in March or April from my last year, 2022.
Year of birth.
1987.
Place of residence.
Mainly London.
Profession.
I'm a trader, but I also consider myself to be an entrepreneur, and most people would describe me as that.
Briefly state what you aim to achieve on eToro.
For myself, to make gains, and then for the wider community to just engage with people and to enjoy my time while I'm on there.
Name one of your investing heroes.
Probably in honesty, this is Warren Buffett is probably one of my key ones, which I'm not sure a lot of people would expect me to say, but genuinely, I really like his humility and his approach. I think he's a top guy, massively.
Name one of your favorite investing books.
I actually did prepare this because a friend bought me this. I don't remember if it was a couple of years ago, and it's called Good Economics for Hard Times, Better Answers to Our Bigger Problems. And have you read it?
No, I haven't, but it sounds very time appropriate.
I think I read it back in 2021 from my memory. A friend bought it me, as I said, for Christmas, and it's brilliant, and it thinks about wider problems and about the future and about emerging markets, immigration. It's excellent. It's an excellent book. I really recommend reading it for anybody who kind of wants to expand their minds of how economics actually work.
That completes the formalities. Let's proceed now into the VIP section here at the clubhouse. The amazing Copy Traders Lounge awaits you. Jake Williams, aka Jakeisat, are you ready for this magical transition?
Let's do it.
Okay, Jake, come on in, settle yourself down here on one of these sofas. Can I get you a little drink?
Well, I've already got a cup of tea, so I'm pretty much made.
You don't turn up at the clubhouse with a cup of tea in your hand.
I mean, you'll hardly ever see me without some form of caffeine in my hand. So, you know.
Okay, so Jake, you're otherwise known as the master of cats on eToro.
Coined by Felix Fallax, I believe.
Okay. Well, first question is, can cats be mastered?
I suppose that would be a question for Felix rather than me. But from my experience of my cat at the moment, no, they cannot be. No, they can be. Actually, I don't know if you saw this recently, but I got a cat. And so far, we've taught him to sit, give paw, go down. So, yeah, I think cats can be mastered.
And your cat has an appropriate name for today's economic climate.
My cat's name is Bear.
Very good. You're also something of a fellow Baldi. Lots of us around these days. Last week's episode was a video with J Nemesis, which looked very much like a Right Said Fred video. I'll leave it to the viewer to decide which one of us was too sexy for their shirt. But not only are you a Baldi, but you're something of an expert Baldi, since there's a YouTube video of you showing people how to shave their head and face with a razor, as you do every day.
That's very true. I actually forgot that was on YouTube. I put that up when I was camping once in Australia. I just kind of wanted to. My friends are always asking me, like, "Oh, how'd you do it?" Because I started shaving my head way before I lost my hair, by the way. Because I saw it as a process of one, continuous self-care every morning. I like looking good. It's really important to me. My mother taught me that growing up. It's important to look good all of the time. And two, I found it to be a renewing process of letting go of everything every day and going through this whole morning routine that I do of shaving, meditation, self-reflection, journaling. It's a long morning routine, but it really sets me up. You squeeze it in after a number of years. It sounds longer than it probably is to other people, but after so many years of doing it, it's definitely compressed.
Yeah, well, you're certainly very quick with the razor. I was watching you, saying to myself, "Slow down, dude. You're going to cause problems."
Do you shave your head every day?
No, not with like a razor.
Okay, yeah.
I use clippers, with no guard.
Yeah, fair enough.
But every once in a while, I'll shave my head with a razor. But I use a safety razor, like your granddad used to use.
Yeah.
Not a Max 3 or anything.
Well, it takes me, realistically, as you saw from the YouTube video, it takes me about like 30 seconds to shave my head and face every day. So it's just literally, I can probably do it in about 30 seconds to a minute. So, I mean, it saves time of going to the hairdressers. I used to go and have my hair cut every 2 weeks, when I had hair, because I had to, because that was a part of kind of the industry I was in at the time. So yeah, I just get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. One less thing to worry about.
One less. And we've all got enough to worry about at the moment, I tell you.
Okay, well, let's move away from baldy heads. And can you explain your username?
I always wanted to do a poll on this, actually, to what people think it means. Because obviously I'm the master of cats. So I made this username about, it must have been close to 20 years ago now. And what it stands for is Jake is a, and then the T is an animal. Can you guess what the animal is?
Tiger.
Yes, that's it. So this has been a continuous thing ever since I've been a child of being obsessed with cats and big cats. And so I actually have a skin condition that called Becker's nevus, and I have one of the largest recorded like distributions of it in the West. I remember when I was 15 and I went to go and see a doctor, and he looked at it and he was amazed by it. And this is back in the day before kind of, the doctor's hat was sitting on there with computers and stuff, or probably it was dial-up actually, probably back then. And I remember him running to a shelf and pulling down a book and pulling it out and being like, it's Beckus and Nevis, this is it, like, and showing me in this book. And he said, I'm going to a skin conference like in a couple of weeks, will you come with me and show everyone? I was obviously 15, really insecure about this thing, that because it comes through at stages of puberty, and I was like, no, I can't, mate, I've come to see you to sort this out, not to show it off.
Does it cause stripes?
No, it doesn't actually. It basically is a discoloration of skin, and the skin is a lot more firmer and stronger. And I don't know who the actor is. Beckers. I'm not really good on popular media, but he's an actor that has it, and it was named after him. But anyway, I have a large tiger tattooed on my shoulder here to cover this skin condition. And that was the purpose of me bringing it up, because I turned something that I found to be not too pleasant to look at into a piece of art. But to be honest, I'm not a big fan of tattoos. And and I don't care what people say. They are incredibly painful to get. I don't care if people think I'm a wuss. I found the whole situation awful. I hated it. And it took over like nearly 40 hours to do my shoulder, because I had it done in an extremely high quality, because as I said, I wanted to pay for a piece of art. Frederick Grinnell did it. He's a famous artist. Beautiful piece. Maybe one day I'll show everyone.
It's very interesting. Okay, let's move on. So you were, or perhaps still are, something of a digital nomad.
Yeah, I guess so. When I was about 22, I started my own businesses. I particularly started selling on eBay when I was about 22. By the time I was 24, I had a warehouse. And then by the time I was about 26, this whole operation was running itself. So it allowed me to have income and to basically just employ people and give guidance as a CEO, which is crazy when you think about how young I was. And to just move around the world really, and just take phone calls or, give advice over the internet. And then I would fly back and forward to my warehouse in London, and, whatever they need to ask me at that time, and me being there, I would do that. Or if there was a major problem, they wanted me to fly back, I'd do that. So.
Brilliant.
And then basically, because I've always had that flexibility, I mean, that's kind of what a digital nomad is to me, is having that flexibility. When I know now it's a bit different because of COVID and everybody became like a digital nomad. But for me, it's been nearly all my working life, really.
Okay, let's talk about how I came across you. Do you remember when our paths first crossed?
I don't, to be honest. I think I remember messaging you a long time ago saying I'd love to come on and do a podcast with you.
Oh, possibly you did. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say it came when debating the propriety of posting on other PIs' posts.
Oh, really?
Well, I was questioning some PI about them posting opportunistically on some struggling PI's wall in a sort of ambulance chasing effort to recruit disgruntled copiers. And at least that was my kind of approach to it. And you joined in to say, look, dude, it's just business. It's fine. It's not that bad. Take it easy. You don't remember that?
I don't remember that, no. Remember, I'm having so many conversations on eToro all the time at the moment. But, it's funny because obviously this is happening to me constantly, like absolutely constantly. So, but again, my perception is, look, it's just business. Like it is what it is. If I don't know if it is against terms of service to do something like that, to be honest with you. But it's obviously something that does happen regularly within eToro. For me, it's how they do it. if they actually come in with a sensible kind of approach and say, I think X, Y, and Z would have been better to do, and then they get copiers because of that, fair enough. But if they come in and they say, look, you're rubbish and blah, 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 and come and copy me instead, then that's just to show a poor character. But anybody should notice that anyway, and not follow or copy someone of that kind of that, character. But then that's whoever's decision it is to go into business with that person, because that's effectively what people are doing, in my opinion, on eToro or whenever they give you money for you to do ventures for them, is they're going into business with you. So yeah, it's just, for me, it's all business.
Okay. Why don't we shift gears slightly and ask you to tell us something you're very bad at?
I was thinking about this, and one of the things that I find myself to be worst at probably is to take time off from working, or to stop thinking about working. I'm pretty obsessive when it comes to this stuff, and it fills my life. And there are negatives that draw out of that. And I wouldn't recommend other people necessarily do it, to be honest with you. I'm quite happy, but you see a lot of people kind of like describing this life and being like, you have to wake up and push 1,000 hours a day and like go and work out for 20 hours a day and do all this ridiculous, unrealistic notions for people that, but it has its pros, it has its cons, but definitely learning to relax, which I'm doing as I'm getting older, definitely has some serious pros. But I'm still very bad at it.
Okay, let's have a question from the art of people. Can you give me a number between 1 and 10 that isn't 7?
Let's do 6.
What's the one thing you would like to be doing or to have 5 years from now?
I'd like a dog. Yeah.
I was not expecting that after a long pause. Lots of thought.
Well, I mean, I'd like to build more businesses and add more value to the world in that way, but I've already done quite a bit of that. So it's not, I'm trying to think of things that I haven't done before.
If you're the master of cats, your partner, Charlotte, is the mistress of dogs.
The Duchess of Dogs. I coined that one.
I see.
Yeah.
The Duchess of Dogs.
Yeah. So, and maybe I'll have a child within the next 5 years. Maybe. And that would be maybe a good experience for me, because I don't have any yet. So, but yeah, I'd like to do that. I would also maybe like to move back to Australia permanently. I'm really considering that. So yeah, that might be good, but I don't know if I want to do that within 5 years, or maybe 15 would be better. I have to think about it.
All right, Jake, let's have a look at your profile on eToro. If I could ask you to read from your bio, which I noticed starts with the words, the master of cats. So it's not entirely Felix Falix's doing. So I'm going to ask you to read, I'd like to ask you to read the paragraphs which are headed investment theme, copy guidance, and about me.
Okay, so the investment theme is swing and day trading, is the mixed methodology, and I'm long short. The copy guidance is a minimum copy amount of $600. Recommended time frame is 6 months, and to copy open trades. And about me is like 10 years plus of investment experience, successful entrepreneur specializing in manufacturing, e-commerce, and tech development, an MSc in neuropsychology, and my Instagram, which is Jakeisat Finance.
Or Jakeisat Finance.
Yeah, or Jakeisat, exactly.
Okay, let's have a quick look at your results that you mentioned earlier. When I asked you when you first joined eToro, You were correct in saying it was 2015.
Mm.
There were only 4 months of activity in 2015, followed by years of zeros until you returned again in March of 2022. So I'm glad to see you're not tempted to try and sell yourself, as some PIs would, as having an 8-year track record on eToro.
No.
Explain that picture for us.
So in 2015, I joined eToro on the advice of a friend. At the time, he said, look, there's this new investment platform. Come on, you can copy some of these like really high risk traders, and some of them are making ridiculous returns. So I came on, can't even remember how much I put in at the time, probably like 5 or 10 grand. And I just copied a bunch of people. It's such a long time ago. I can't remember how many, but maybe I copied like 5 or 10. And they just, obviously I hit the top of their curve and they drew down. And I remember watching at the time and listening to a few of them talk and just thinking, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm going to leave now. I can invest my money in much better ways. So I just left the platform and just walked away from eToro and never gave it another thought, to be honest, until I was hanging out with Harry Harrison. You know him? Yeah. So me and Harry are friends, and we were friends way before I came back to eToro. Well, not way before, but a while before. And we were playing pool one day, and I was telling him about my investments and how things were going. And he was explaining to me how eToro works now, and that, you know, he enjoys it and that he's had quite a bit of success on it. And he just said, look, you should come on and you should rejoin. It's a great community. I think you'd really enjoy it. I was also talking to him about how, you know, before, when I owned businesses, I had, you know, lots of phone calls every day and chatting to people, and that was kind of removed from my life as I exited business at the beginning of January time last year, because I wanted to take a break for myself, essentially. And I wanted to trade as well, really, just really focus only on trading, but also just not be in business for a little while, which I deserve, because I've been doing it for such a long time. As I said, for such a young age, really grinding. So yeah, he said, come on, like, you know, see how it goes. So I joined, and I just really liked the community initially. I mean, it was brilliant. I still love the community, but obviously the community around me is much wider now.
Okay, so in the 10 months of 2022, you made a 15.4% gain in a year when lots of people were doing very poorly. So that's kind of the story of your popularity so far on eToro, making money in a year when most did not.
Yeah, generally.
Let's talk about the extreme volatility of your returns. Most of the months are double-digit green or red. Best example of that is a 26% loss in May, followed by a 76% gain in June. So talk us through that period specifically and the volatility generally.
So on that period, just had drawdown basically. You know, I was quite leveraged, and then when June happened, things just went my way over a period. I mean, I knew eventually that they would, but just had to wait out kind of the wave. I mean, you're kind of seeing that as well with right now this year. Like this year, January has gone massively against me. You know, it's actually marginally worse this year, but then today we've made like 4.5% back. So I expect something very similar to this. It's not definite. Obviously, nothing's definite in this game, but it's just the nature of my trading. Extreme volatility, massive swings, and coming out. This year should be quite good, really. Especially perhaps I've managed the drawdown a little bit better this year because, I haven't really made very many realized losses when the year before I was shutting down a bit more for risk management because it was a little bit unclear there what was going on with commodities. Because obviously the war was such a huge impact on the markets, and like the dollar just, there was so many unforeseens there. So maybe I risk managed a little bit more aggressively then. But this year, I'm a lot more kind of willing to ride the bounce and just let it play out. I think long term, I'm going to be okay.
All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what this year holds in store later. Let's have a little look at your risk score, Jake. Unsurprisingly, for one who experiences such volatility, your risk score is also an up and down picture with many different colors on your risk chart. Most recently, I see your kind of average and max of about 6. Trades per week and average holding time. Trades per week, 38.92. Average holding time, 1.5 weeks. So it's fair to say you're a very frequent actor.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say that 38 trades a week is very much so. But yeah.
I'd say in the great scheme of things on eToro, when I'm comparing PIs, 38 trades is quite frequent.
But I think a lot of eToro PIs that had been on there for a long time bought back, from what I can see, bought a long time ago and have just held and aren't actually actively investing or trading. They're just holding. And that's why a lot of them have lost 50% of their stack last year, or 40 to 50%. And they'll make that back, obviously, over a given period of time, probably. But yeah, it's just not my approach.
Copier numbers and assets under copy. Copier numbers currently 281. Assets under copy 300K to 1 million. And you can basically plot each month of your stats against your copier chart, and you can see people kind of joining and leaving depending on the most recent result. So I imagine you have a high turnover of copiers. You have a bad month, a chunk of copiers leaves, and then you have a good month and a new chunk of copiers arrives. Is that how you experience it?
That's very much how I experience it. It's not, I don't think it's the best approach for people to leave during drawdown, but that's their choice. It's their money and it's their investments, and they're responsible for that. So, yeah.
The other thing you demonstrate considerable frequency for is posting on eToro. You're like a daily poster or so. Is that correct?
Yeah, I post once a day, but I don't post beyond that. But obviously, I'm quite active in the comments.
Well, I see you in the comments quite recently reacting to the argumentative combat between bulls and bears, or people who define themselves as one of those two team members.
Yeah, and I don't like I like to stir things up a little bit on the like Fed rate decisions, and I always do a big post and we have a nice big chat about it. But generally, I'm quite against this whole concept that there's two teams of investors. I think that that's a bad approach. I think really we're all learning, and we're all investing in the markets together, and we should be supportive. And this division is not, it's not appropriate, in my opinion. It's not appropriate to create these divides in industries or within business. I mean, bears will soon be on the bull side when we go into a bull market eventually. And I'm hoping that when that happens, that there'll be a lot more cohesion in the community and a lot more kindness. But we'll see.
Well, there are plenty listening who might say, we're in a bull market right now. Jake, don't you realize?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that at the moment. Yeah.
One thing that's noticeable about your profile and your posts and the interchange, I think, is that there's a lot of goodwill evident, which comes from you initially, and I think is reciprocated by many of your the people who choose to comment on your posts. And as an example of that, you sign off all your posts with, as always, love ya, heart emoji, Jake, smiley face. Such a nice guy.
Well, the idea behind this is kind of twofold. One, it's kind of to be all encompassing to everyone, like bulls and bears, regardless of, where you come from, to be like, love ya, regardless, as always. And secondly, it's to point out that, it doesn't matter if you draw down or if you're going through like a difficult time in the markets. It's not particularly important. Like, come and join our community. Like, we should be kind and we should be supportive, because that's the idea of the community I'm trying to build on eToro, is to provide that for people while they go through this process of education and learning. So yeah, I'm always trying to be as kind as possible to as many people on there as you can be.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Let's turn our attention now, Jake, to your portfolio. If I could give a sort of broad brush description to the listener. When I look at your portfolio and I select the pie chart feature on eToro, maybe that'll give us some idea, but it's not actually correct. And I think that's maybe something to do with your frequency of trading, but it'll paint something of a picture for us. Indices, 83%. Stocks, almost 7%. Currencies, 7%. Commodities, 3%. And then a small ETF allocation. So 80% or so, more than, are indices, and they're all short positions, or they were the last time I looked.
So yeah, that's correct. But I've been adding to them of recent, and I've gotten out of most of my bonds and ETFs to short them a little bit further and to cover some stop losses, to make sure that I don't get caught on a spike because of what's been happening with the Fed going down to 0.25. So yeah, I mean, some of this I can actually move out of these. If I want to release some cash, I can, because my stop losses are so extended beyond. But I'm just doing that in case it's like an irregular market movement that like really, catches me sideways. But then also I do that where I set all my shorts to zero, like to have infinite profit, where I don't have take profit, just in case there is something that happens. It's just good practice. So I'm pretty confident on for me personally, for where we are now in terms of the portfolio. I would like to buy some more bonds very soon, just to be clear, but I'm going to be doing that in the coming days and weeks, actually.
Okay, so just as you mentioned cash there, I just had a quick check to see what your cash balance is. You're fully invested currently.
Mm.
Can I ask you for your reaction to Jerome Powell the other day?
I really like Powell. Like, I always have. A lot of people would be surprised that I say that as well, but I think he's very honest. I think that he doesn't know what's going to happen. I think for anybody it's a very humble bloke. He's incredibly intelligent as well. I think it was really good what he like the message he delivered on the debt ceiling as well. That was good. And just being honest and saying, look, there's so many uncertainties moving forward. We don't realistically know what's going to happen, and we haven't felt the full effects of inflation really yet. So yeah, brilliant from my perception. Obviously the market's a bit ridiculous where it picks up. Obviously he spoke about, okay, well, we are seeing inflation curve now and we can actually confirm this. But he was honest and he said, we don't know what's going to happen beyond this now.
Do you think the market is pricing in cuts where they're not going to happen. The market's still far too optimistic about what the economic conditions are going to be in the later part of the year.
Cuts in what sense?
Well, the market pricing in interest rate cuts towards the end of this year, November, December time, whereas Powell hasn't intimated that. He's said he's going to stay the course.
I think it's very likely that they're going to do what they're expecting to do. And the market at the moment, depending, it's a broad question. So what specifically are we talking about here, and what specific market? Do I think that inflation is curving now and that rate hikes will reduce? Yeah, of course, that's what's going to happen. We've been told specifically what's going to happen. A lot of people seem to create like conjecture or make up things that might potentially happen, but we're usually given quite a clear picture. And it's only when the picture isn't clear moving forward, they're quite honest about this. I mean, and this is the main takeaway from the discussion that Powell had the other day, is that he said the picture now moving forward is less clear, because at this point, less bad news has been considered as good news, right? Like, that is the picture that's been painted at the moment, which is a crazy way to approach things. But it's not going to take much now I think, for a market correction, especially with the liquidity issues that we're facing. I was surprised that, to be honest, that there wasn't more of a correction with like Apple's earnings particularly. But, you know, I think the market is quite resilient at the moment. I think that a lot of people are getting stopped out. I don't think they've set appropriate stop losses. I don't think they've planned appropriately. I mean, I'm seeing this so much on eToro of people not planning appropriately. This is why I was saying why I've moved more cash into my stop losses, where I can pull on that if I need to, but I will pull on that when I see the market actually turn, and I will increase my positions against that. And that will create that scale where, you know, where we go from minus to massive plus. That's a part of the technique.
And it sounds like you think that the market is irrationally exuberant at the moment. Market participants are. What do you put that down to? And what's going to be the catalyst for that to change, do you think?
It depends what market we're talking about in particular, because when we take a look at the US in comparison to Europe, I mean, take a look at the UK, for example. I mean, they've been massively benefiting, companies in the UK, for the reduction of the pound, and, you know, with the energy crisis over here. I mean, yeah, they've made a lot of money over this period. I was always a bit kind of dubious, kind of shorting the UK over this period. I was putting that openly online a few months ago, but I thought, you know what, after last quarter, things in the UK should start massively showing down. And that was based on guidance provided by, multiple sources. But really, we're really seeing that now with the IMF report. And we should see massive slowdown here. Especially, we should see, now that the dollar has corrected against the pound, we should see a much better position to short the FTSE. But that's containing if the dollar doesn't bounce back up. But even if the dollar doesn't bounce back up, should the FTSE be at its all-time high at the moment? It seems to me certain companies should, and that's fantastic. But other industries should start slowing down over the next couple of quarters within the UK. And again, I think that people mix too much, like, they take a look at like the situation, like the economic or political situation within the UK, and then they mix that with market data, when that's not really how it works. Economic factors are important, but really what we're taking a look at is, are these businesses making money? regardless of that. And not many people really get that, and they get sold into a narrative. So do I think that, and I think that people get sold into a narrative as well when things go well. Like, people are so willing to to evade reason, in my opinion, and take a look at the best case scenario at the good times, and then going on the worst case scenario in the worst times. And this is obviously reflected as well by like how people copy me. Like, when I do well, they're like, give him loads of money, and when I do like bad, they're like, run away, and then like abuse him. I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy reaction of people. But you know, that's their bad, and obviously it's easy for me to capitalize on that, you know, when there's such irrationality in retail investors. That's why a lot of people lose money, being irrational and fearful.
Okay, you mentioned different markets there. You just mentioned the UK. Let me just, for the benefit of the listener, list your top 5 positions. They are selling positions on all these various indices: German 40, NASDAQ 100, UK 100, RTY, and France 40. And then there's a few more: Euro stocks, Spain, DJ 30, Dow Jones. So those are all your top positions, and they, as we discussed earlier, account for the vast majority of your portfolio. So you're pretty down on Europe, it would seem, at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, remember, all of these positions are times 5 leveraged. Okay, so it's not like I've caught any of them at their bottoms. So for me to actually correct in this, by the way, one I can release. If we do peak at any of them, I can release cash into them, and then I can start shorting on the way down. So for me to actually correct in these, I don't need to reach an all-time low. Like, far beyond that, actually. I just need a market correction at the moment. Like I said, today I made something like 4% on my whole portfolio. It's crazy movement. Hopefully I get 30 days of that. Well, I won't, because I'll be moving things around. So to take profits. But yeah, Europe's gone against me. Nobody's really foreseen this bounce to be as aggressive as what it is. But a lot of people say, yeah, I've foreseen it. But it's all people talking like they're saying it as a matter after the fact and acting like they forecasted it, when anyone that I've seen who's reputable hasn't really seen the market do something like this. You know, it's caught even institutions off guard. Most people were pretty much copying me only for my Indices trades, to be honest. I'm pretty sure from their feedback, and also what I do on commodities.
Okay, let's talk about the people who copy you. Who should copy Jakeisat?
Anybody who's got a high appetite for risk, I think, would be appropriate. Yeah.
A high appetite for risk or a stomach for volatility? Or is there any difference?
I presume that it'd be new. I think a stomach actually for volatility would probably be more appropriate actually to say, because it does, you know, it's concerning seeing people fold. And I hope that people take a look at my trading history before they actually copy me. And I would only ever advise that people copy me when they're actually doing due diligence and taking a look at that volatility. Yeah, I don't want people to lose money. It's a crazy idea.
It's hard for me to imagine someone would copy you without realizing what they're getting into, because it's so obvious from a quick glance at your stats. But it never ceases to amaze me how copiers will jump into things without seemingly knowing the minimum.
I know someone who's on eToro and doesn't know anything about investing at all and would never factor in something like this. They would just literally take a look at the percentage that someone's made on the year and then take that at face value, that's how things work. You know, we're coming from this from a different position of actually understanding what risk is, and some people don't understand what risk is when they join a platform like eToro.
Well, Copytraders Club exists to try and bridge that gap for copiers and explain some of these things in their simplest terms to make sure they are making informed decisions. You know?
But then on the other side of that, I think for people to want to be educated, I don't think very many people who are of who I'm describing, to watch an hour and a half video of an investor talking about his approach. Like, it would be more efficient for them to sit down and do like an hour and a half on Investopia and read about basic strategies and what risk management is and different arts of investing, what ISAs are, you know, what ETFs actually are, how to do things cheaply. You know, I put things down. Like, I've got a section on my post every day now where I put 101 for beginners, because I'm aware of how of this massive issue, really. I actually think that everybody should have to come in and do some basic kind of questions or an introduction before they start spending money in the markets. But, you know, obviously that would never happen. But I think that, and I'm not talking about a course, I'm just talking about like a 10-minute kind of introduction of how to actually use this app when you download it. This is what this means. This is what this means.
Jake, what makes you so special?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. My experience, my appetite for risk, or my stomach for volatility. That's probably what I would say is really what defines me. And also the fact that I'm such a all-encompassing kind of character. I know I'm a big character, but yeah, and that I'm unusually kind to people. I found from my life experience, which is the best way to be. Yeah.
Here's a question that I think we're going to have already been given the answer to, but what other PI would you say you know best on a personal level?
Probably my wife, to be honest, Charlotte. But I'm good friends with Harry Harrison. Me and Antonio Noble talk quite a lot.
How do you know Harry?
I set up a charity in COVID, after COVID, when I came back from Australia, to help people come back out of their houses and socialize. And it was called Talk the Walk. And it was to create, avenues for people to come out and to join and to walk around central parts of London together. But the first time we did this, 350 people turned up. And Harry was one of them. And
wow.
We became friends through that, basically.
Okay, final question, Jake. What's the one question that you wish I'd asked you during this chat that I haven't?
What my plans are for the next year investing, and when I actually think that the bear market will end.
And the answer is?
Well, I know what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to have a much more balanced profile by the end of the year, but I don't know when the bear market's going to end, to be honest. It comes down to liquidity. So once that issue is resolved, then I will pivot. But until it is, I'm quite okay at the moment. I think that the next couple of months for me are going to be quite okay, but we'll have to see. Nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows. Never a truer word spoken, but we look forward to seeing how you get on, Jake. Be keeping a close eye on you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for dropping by the clubhouse.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to do this, by the way. I always wanted to do it from when I saw that you originally do it. And I just think it's fantastic, to be honest, man, to give the exposure and the transparency so people can actually see who they're giving their money to and who they're going into business with. This is fundamental idea that people don't really get on eToro. That's really what you're doing. You're going into business with someone. You're giving them money to manage an investment. That's why really reputation and, qualifications are so important, which I'm doing at the moment because I plan on opening up a private fund soon. Anyway, thanks so much.
Hope that episode helps you get Jake down to a T and understand what he's all about and what copying him would be like. Certainly not boring. I look forward to seeing how his stats shape up as we go through 2023. That's all from me. See you on Discord and Facebook. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Anything you hear in this podcast is for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just generic chit chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., and so forth.